in a state filled with glamorous resort towns and towering skyscrapers that never sleep. There's one small town that shines through its quietude, not its spotlight. Its name, Paonia. Not Aspen, not Boulder, and definitely not Denver. Paonia doesn't sell luxury. This tiny town once thrived off coal that fueled the world. Then it rose from the ashes, planted new seeds, and rewrote its story with its own hands. While large cities chase speed and numbers, Paonia has chosen to slow down, to root itself, to build an economy from the earth, not from statistics. Here, simple things like apples, bluegrass, and a bowl of community soup stand strong against the madness of globalization. So the question isn't just what does Paonia have, it's, are other cities brave enough to learn from Paonia's courage to simply be themselves? Nestled in the fertile North Fork Valley, Paonia lies in the western part of Colorado, about 120 miles east of Grand Junction and not far from the base of the majestic West Elk Mountains. Back in the late 19th century, Paonia was little more than a dot on a map. But when coal was discovered, this land suddenly became a treasure trove of opportunity. Hundreds of workers flooded in, forming a community that not only toiled for their daily bread, but also built the town from the ground up. Roads were carved out, homes sprung up, and schools were established. Paonia became a symbol of Colorado's booming coal industry until the world began to change. In the 1970s, when the energy market began to shift and coal mines started to close, Paonia was on the verge of collapse. But rather than fading away, the town chose to pivot. From the depths of the mines, they turned their focus to the surface, toward agriculture. Apple orchards, cherry groves, and peach trees began to flourish, not only because the climate was favorable, but also because its residents were determined. They believed the land still had a future. Then came the wine boom. In the 1990s, the fertile soil of Paonia, once planted with corn and fruit, began to be overtaken by grapevines. And these weren't just any grapes. Top-tier Syrah, Chardonnay, and Pinot Noir began to thrive here. From these vineyards, a new identity emerged for the town. No longer a coal mining town, but a town of terroir, a town of flavor, a town of resilience. Because Paonia has never been just about the economy. It's about the people who refuse to be relegated to a mere footnote in the history of America's mining industry. It's about organic farmers, winery owners, artists, and environmental activists who made this place their home, planting not just crops, but also values. Paonia didn't just survive, it resisted, and then it grew in its own unique way. Paonia may be small, with a population of less than 1,500, but don't be fooled. This town pulses like a collective heartbeat. The Paonia community isn't just a group of individuals, it's a network of solidarity that grows from the earth itself, from the roots of farming and the vineyards they tend together. Here, farmers aren't competitors, but comrades. The fruits of their labor are often shared, not sold. Art isn't a luxury, but a part of everyday life. The bonds within this town grow even stronger through festivals. Every July, Paonia shines in a sweet red hue. For 3 straight days, the town echoes with applause, the laughter of children, and the warm scent of cherry pies. Cherry Days isn't just a festival, it's a celebration of local roots that has been alive and pulsing every year since 1946. The signature 4th of July parade is the heart of the festivities. The main street fills with cherry-themed floats, classic cars, hay bales, and even the clown band, which, it's said, wears costumes made from World War II parachutes. At the weekly market, the Paonia Farm Market, farmers and artisans don't just sell goods. They share stories, sample each other's work, offer compliments, and sometimes provide comfort when the seasons aren't kind. But the true heartbeat of this town can be felt through its art scene. Small galleries adorn the corners of town like visual whispers from honest hearts. From pottery fired using ancient techniques to landscape paintings created through the window of a kitchen, to poetry performances in old warehouses transformed into art spaces, everything emerges not because of industry, but because of love. In Paonia, art is a form of resistance against solitude. It's a statement that being a small community isn't a reason to fade into the background. And it's precisely because it's small that every effort, every creation, every outstretched hand feels enormous. In Paonia, the landscape is not just scenery, it is a part of the town's very identity. The mountains stand like ancient, silent guardians, watching over the small town that rests in the fertile North Fork Valley. In the summer, the air is filled with the scent of wet earth, wildflowers, and ripening grapes. In the winter, snow falls quietly on the rooftops of barns and the sleeping fields, as if giving the town time to dream. Nature here is never still. It calls, sometimes gently through the whisper of the wind in the orchards, and sometimes wildly through the steep trails that climb toward the mountains. The residents and visitors know this. Hiking in Paonia is not just exercise, it's a kind of meditation with every step. Take the trail to North Fork Valley, for instance. It leads you from the peaceful valley to a point where you can look out over the entire world from above. The green fields below, the tiny town in the center, and the endless blue sky above. Cycling in Paonia is also not merely a physical activity. It's a communion with the landscape. The winding routes that follow the river's course or curve along the hillside feel like reading a poem of nature written in dust, light, and sweat. Every turn is a new story, every climb a challenge, and every gust of wind a gift. But perhaps the greatest magic comes from the land itself. Paonia doesn't just observe nature, it lives from it. The vineyards are not just photo ops, they are the lifeblood of the town's economy and culture. When the sun sets over the rows of grapevines, there's a stillness that only those who've tasted Syrah straight from the source can truly understand. Here, tasting wine is not about luxury, it's about understanding the land, the weather, and the hard work of the local farmers. In a Colorado filled with resort towns and bustling highways, Paonia stands as a whisper that refuses to become an echo. This town doesn't shout, but it is heard. Surrounded by landscapes that redefine the meaning of beauty, Paonia has become an escape for those weary of hyperactive capitalism and the never-ending glow of city lights. Here, time slows down, and it is precisely in this slowing down that we find meaning. A few miles from the town center, Black Canyon of the Gunnison splits the earth like an ancient wound that has yet to heal. Its cliffs are not just tall, they are brutal, intimidating, raw. Facing them is like facing yourself, and anyone who has hiked the trails here knows this. Every step along the steep path is a reminder that nature is not something to be conquered, but something to be respected. Back in the valley, vineyards like Hacienda and Palisade vineyards grow not only from the fertile soil, but from a philosophy that honors human labor, the patience of the seasons, and the depth of flavor. Here, wine is not just a commodity, it's a story about farming families, about the hands that plant and harvest, about generations choosing to stay rather than move to Denver for a higher-paying job, but a soul that feels smaller. The North Fork River flows without ambition, but not without purpose. It becomes a place for fishing, boating, or simply sitting quietly and feeling content. And isn't that what we're all searching for? A sense of enoughness. In a world that constantly pushes us to do more, Paonia teaches us how to be enough. Enough aware, enough sensitive, enough present. Where once this town thrived off the dark depths of the earth, Paonia now looks to the sky and the sun for its growth. After the collapse of the coal industry in the 1970s, leaving behind economic holes and significant social wounds, Paonia refused to sink. Instead of relying on mining corporations that came and went like the seasons, this small town chose to plant roots, literally. Today, vineyards and organic farms are the new heartbeat of Paonia's economy. The land that was once dug up is now planted with apples, cherries, and organic vegetables, sold not to mass markets, but to a community that cares about where their food comes from. This is where the Paonia food movement takes shape, acting as a bridge, distributing the harvest from small-scale farmers' hands to the mouths of families hungry for food justice. There's no room for greedy agribusiness here. In Paonia, farming isn't about maximizing the harvest. It's about how to grow without causing harm. The farming community practices organic methods, honors the cycles of nature, and treats the land not just as property, but as a heritage. Through associations like the Valley Organic Growers Association, VOGA, they share knowledge, tools, and a common spirit that an economy can be fair, that food can be ethical. Meanwhile, tourism flourishes not because of man-made attractions or luxury resorts, but because people from big cities have begun to hunger for authenticity. They come to taste wine straight from the vineyard, to hear stories from farmers who grow without pesticides, or simply to sit quietly in the fields and feel content. Paonia offers experiences, not packaged tours. Life, not illusion.